So you still know that I was looking this week. At all the wonderful pictures of the high school graduates in the Jewish news. It's typically one of my favorite issues of the year, looking at how many of the graduates I know, and how many are, well, of course, going to the University of Michigan in the fall. It also brings me back to my own senior year of high school. I remember the optimism, the excitement, the anxiety. I also remember that I had hair. So much hair, in fact, that I could pull my bangs down to my mouth. Plus, I had a goatee on and off that senior year of high school. When I think back to that time, I certainly fancied myself a hippie. I wore tie-dye, I listened to the Beatles, Crosby, Stills, and Bob Dylan. I talked about peace. Given the long hair, goatee, tie-dye, and music selection, one might think I was a child of the 60s. Let's just say, without giving away my age too much, I was a little late for that party. I also remember resenting the older adults who had made war, the baby boomers, who had rallied against it a generation prior, but were now in their own time leading a nation to send young men and women to war. I talked about the need for peace, the desire for peace, the obligation to seek peace wherever and whenever we could. Time marches on, but the conflicts between a parent's generation and a children's generation remain unchanged. Fast forward a decade from my high school graduation. I was a new rabbi then, encountering soldiers and veterans who had actually served in the armed forces. I came to know these men and women as individuals of honor, of pride, of bravery. I came to know them as World War II soldiers who freed my people, my grandparents, from enslavement at the hands of the Nazis, the Poles, and others. I came to know them as Vietnam veterans who so loved our country that they were willing to put their lives on the line simply because their country, our country, asked it of them. I came to know veterans as visionaries who led tank battles in the Gulf War, ethicists who served on the ground in Afghanistan, brave warriors at home and abroad in every branch of our service, who so loved our country and the values it holds so dear that they were willing to put the love of God and country above their own instinct for self-preservation. Would all the veterans in the room please stand up if you're able to? Thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for protecting me and my family and all of our families. You may be seated. We gather this morning at a unique intersection of Memorial Day and Shavuot. Memorial Day, of course, is a time when, for the last 150 years, we've gathered to remember and to give thanks for the soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice. And Shavuot is that holiday when, for the last, 3,500 years, we have gathered together to remember the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. On Shavuot, we celebrate the gift of God's law that gives mission to the people Israel. On Memorial Day, we celebrate those who died in defense of our right to practice that law. This is truly a unique intersection in history. It seems to me that a similar intersection occurred nearly 70 years ago when a great teacher of Torah, Rabbi Morris Adler, enlisted in the military, went to chaplaincy school, and then became the first Jewish chaplain to arrive in Japan. There, Rabbi Adler met not only with the Jewish American soldiers, but also stateless Jews from throughout the world who had nowhere to go. Rabbi Adler served with distinction and enabled many of those war refugees to find home here in the United States. How is it that a rabbi, a man dedicated to Torah, could serve in the military? After all, don't we read in the Bible, and sing about it when we return the Torah to the ark. Deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom. The Torah's ways are pleasant, and all its paths are shalom, our peace. The answer, put simply, is that the Torah sets the ideal, but we have to live in this world. The Torah paints for us a heavenly utopia to which we are commanded to aspire. But to accomplish that goal, we have to do so by human means, even if we engage in war in order to achieve peace. Moreover, the Torah tells us that even when in the midst of war, that absurdly human earthly phenomenon, we must still try to live God's laws in how we care for nature, and most importantly, in how we care for our fellow man. In 1946, upon Rabbi Adler's return, Rabbi Hirschman retired, and 8 years later, Rabbi Adler was elected chief rabbi for life at Congregation Shaarey Zedek. Then, of course, to call it tragic doesn't do justice. You know what happened next. Many of you were there that day. Our soldier of Torah was gunned down in our own sanctuary. The beloved Rabbi Adler was killed not on the battlefield, but as a result of what happened here in this home of Torah 49 years ago. At today's intersection of Yizkor and Memorial Day, we remember the impact that both Goldie and Rabbi Adler made on this amazing synagogue, as well as Judaism around the world. But you know, throughout history, when great leaders have been cut down, often the most moving, inspirational time is when that soldier next to him, almost by a hand of God, picks up the flag that he dropped and begins to carry it himself, eyes forward, leading the troops to achieve their mission. 49 years ago, when our flag, the Torah, metaphorically dropped to the ground, a young Rabbi Erwin Groner picked it up and took his place as a spiritual leader of our congregation. He would go on, of course, to become the Rabbi Groner, our Rabbi Groner, known throughout the world for wit and wisdom, but also for his fierce defense of the Torah and for all that our tradition holds dear. Like Rabbi Adler, Rabbi Groner was elected and truly served as our rabbi for life. Rabbi Groner's uniform was different than Rabbi Adler's, but his mission was the same. He was a soldier for Torah, a defender of Judaism, and especially Jewish values, and a warrior for peace. We remember Rabbi Groner today, too, at this intersection of Shavuot and Memorial Day, because he truly gave all of himself to the love of God, the practice of Torah, and in protection of this great synagogue and all the families who call it home. We look forward in just over a week to participating in the inaugural lecture in the Rabbi Erwin Groner Memorial Lecture Series of distinguished scholars. At this moment in which we mark the intersection of Shavuot, the giving of the Torah, and Memorial Day, a day of giving thanks to soldiers who gave their lives that we might live Torah, we recognize that on two fronts, we are the inheritors of an incredible legacy. We must commit to living our lives in such a way as to honor the legacy of soldiers and teachers of Torah who made it possible that we might live Jewish lives of meaning, of purpose, of freedom. And at this hour of Yizkor, we remember our loved ones, parents, siblings, spouses, children, grandparents, some veterans and some peaceniks who sacrificed for us, who taught us, who in so many ways lived for us and died for us, that we might live Jewish lives of meaning, of purpose, of freedom. Deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom. The Torah's ways are pleasant, and all its paths are peace. But but we live in a very human world. Let us so live that we give honor to the legacies of those who came before, by devoting ourselves to the highest ideals they so cherished. Also, let us so live that despite our humanness, or perhaps because of it, we devote ourselves to God and to country, to honoring veterans and to revering teachers of Torah, that we might, with every ounce of our being, pursue paths of true and lasting peace. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will, and let us say together, Amen.